Hi there, I'm Brissa Cabe, the Digital Learning Specialist here at LCMS. Welcome to our App Chat for Educators podcast, where we'll explore different apps, instructional strategies, and other digital resources for education. Thanks for tuning in. This week, I'm here with Jacob Reep, one of our awesome teachers here at LCMS. Jacob, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your role here on campus.
Well, I'm Jacob Reep. I've been teaching for about 13 years. This is my first year in 6th grade here at LCMS, and the rest of my time was spent at Central Elementary, mostly as a 5th grade science teacher.
So I know that coming up from 5th to 6th grade, you've had to take another look at your content and find ways to keep your class engaging and fun while at the same time instructive. I've had the pleasure of being in your classroom during labs and other activities, but something I've absolutely loved to swing by for are your kids' presentations. Now, the idea of presentations isn't new to any teacher, but you've landed on a digital tool that changes how that process works from the traditional sense in your classroom. Can you tell us about what that tool is?
We got to use Flipgrid, something that I've never used before, an amazing app that just allows kids to be able to present and share projects and share their work in a unique way that it just allows them to be them, as opposed to having to worry about being in front of a class and presenting their material.
So how did you learn about this app?
I learned about this app, Flip, through you, as well as Apple Tim and the Apple Professional Training. And having them come into my class and kind of give some ideas for the project as well as the presentation aspect, we kind of landed on this. And it's literally changed the way that I did and the way I will present projects.
So for those who aren't familiar with it, Flip, also known as Flipgrid, can serve as a platform for students to share videos from 1 to 10 minutes long. It allows students to sift through their classmates' videos to learn from each other, and teachers even have the option to turn on commenting for positive peer feedback. So how exactly have you made use of Flip with your students?
How I've used it is, well, overall, we've adjusted the time on it. So we've had 2 different projects in which we used it, 2 different time limits, because that's what's really cool about it is you can give very specific parameters, whether it's a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it may be. You can set a very specific time limit for them to be able to work, which then enables them to be able to synthesize their projects from being a rambling 5 minutes long of the ums and the to a pre-recorded thing that they can actually cut, they can edit, they can add, and the really cool thing about it is that they can actually they can app smash. They can use multiple different apps with it. And so you can have a keynote presentation, you can have a clips presentation, you can use different apps with this that they're more comfortable with, and so you get a really super unique project that's unique to the kids themselves, and you can really see kind of where their skills are at. We've seen everything from kids that you can tell they have a career in newscasting, because they want to be in front of the camera, and they set it up like sitting on the chair, sitting as if they're having an interview. I even had a kid do an interview with a rock. And then other kids did it with, they app smashed with clips and chatter pics to upload onto Flipgrid, in which the rock's there again talking back. And we had one student that has a forte for building Legos. And so he actually did a stop motion film talking all about Earth's layers and the different kinds of rocks. And I mean, it was something that he put in, I think he said it was 6 to 8 hours at home that he was willing and wanting to put in to this stop motion film for this 2-minute long project. And it just showed really how impactful the learning was and how impactful it was for him to be able to make a project that was his way, his style, and show his talents while hitting the content.
So it seems like under the surface, Flip really has been a platform that is simple, but has given your kids a lot of creativity, voice, and student choice as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I think that's the key. Anytime you can give the students a choice of how they can present a project or work on a project, they make it their own. And then all of a sudden you can see exactly who that kid is and what they're about and how elaborate the learning is. You can see all of that literally on the screen, whether it's whole group or individual behind the student iPads, you get to see that.
So you've already kind of touched on it, but can you go into a little bit more detail for me? How do you think this tool, the way you've used it and the way that your kids have used it, have impacted the learning process for them and the teaching process for you?
How it's impacted the students is it has allowed it's allowed the students to make a project their own. And so therefore their individual learning experience becomes unique. And they feel they can take a level of ownership when presenting that project because of how they get to show it. It allows for them to be in a more of a stress-free environment whenever they're presenting their material. You know, sometimes we as teachers want to know what the kids know in a different way than just a worksheet. And you know, it's how you go about doing that. And a lot of times we go to these project presentations in front of the whole room. Well, you bring in a lot of elements that aren't indicative of what the child knows. You know, kids with speech impediments, kids that maybe have trouble reading, or kids that are on, you know, even for instance on the spectrum and have a very difficult time with people looking at them. They can record a video over the material with very limited stimuli in a very safe environment, that they don't have to worry about saying it correctly or reading it carefully the first time because they can edit it, or they don't have to worry about everybody in the room looking at them. And so it's stress-free for the kids. It's a great experience for them to be able to show what they know in a very safe environment.
And I appreciate that you already kind of talked about and touched on the fact that it's more about really showing the learning. And this is a safe place for kids to actually show what they know, rather than, like you said, having all those other factors bombarding them the day of a presentation. Now, something that I also appreciate when I've come in to watch some of your kids' projects is you have your teacher screen onto your Apple TV. You're airplaying it for all the class to see. You go through each project, each presentation, each video one at a time, but your students aren't just sitting there watching. They're also writing down their thoughts about what's being mentioned in the video. They're putting down positive comments to their peers, and I think that's an awesome way that you use Flip. That is something that you can do on Flip, but you've done it in different ways that allow your kids to really connect and engage with one another's projects. And I think that's awesome. That's what technology is meant for, not only to make showing the learning accessible, but receiving that learning for everyone too. And collaboration and giving that peer feedback, I think, has been a big part of it. That sometimes when we give normal presentations in class in the traditional sense, doesn't always happen that same way. So something else I want to talk a little bit about when it comes to Flip and pick your brain on, because I know you're into this stuff. Flip has very recently introduced a new feature called Flip AR. This feature is supposed to allow users to place uploaded videos into the physical classroom in an almost interactive way, just like augmented reality. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's awesome. I was looking over it, kind of looking over some notes of it when I saw it come across, and it just seems neat. I feel like the room is an extension of learning. And so I feel like any time that you can take the physical space and you can turn it into something that enables and drives learning, then you're doing exactly what you should be. To be able to put, whether it's charts or maps or graphs, student work, or whatever it may be, to have a kid make a diagram of the solar system but use the room and be able to kind of show the paths of orbits. I think that anytime you can do that, you help the student to really be able to visualize the questions on the test. You allow them to visualize better the material. You make the learning come alive. To be able to, even in other contents, to be able to make a story come to life and have a storyboard that literally, as you walk around the classroom and you can be a part of this, that, whatever it may be, walking through the forest and learning about all this different stuff that's going on in the book, I just think is awesome. Or to be able to go in geography and be able to go to a different place and to be able to have those notes and to be able to have that presentation while, walking through Bavaria. Who knows? I mean,
awesome.
It's something that is unique and special. And there again, it goes back to anytime that you can spark that level of interest in a student, they're going to learn it. And that to me is the key of what we do. It's not just about content. It's the spark. It's the ignition of that thought pattern in their head, that ignition of inspiration that you give them, that, oh, look what I can do, look at what I can create.
And exactly, it's about that creation aspect. We have so many tools that can give us virtual or augmented reality that are pre-made, but Flip is becoming a platform where kids can create those environments and really immerse themselves in their own projects and in their peers' projects. And so I think that's a really exciting new feature. I think that's something that once we learn a little bit more about it and have the chance to play with it, it could really take off and be pretty awesome for students. So I know our time is short, but I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Is there anything else that you want to say or share before we wrap up?
There again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you, Brissa, for everything you've done. I think that what we have with our learning specialists on our campus is phenomenal. I think the way that they're utilized on our campuses, helping us to better use technology in a very safe environment is exactly what we need. I think that our district has got the right tools, and I think with people like you, we've got the right things in place for us to be able to utilize those tools. So I thank you. I thank the district for allowing us to have these opportunities, and yay.
Well, I appreciate that, but as I've said before, it always starts with the teacher being willing to try those new things and bring that learning to life for their kids. I really appreciate you joining in for this awesome conversation today. I loved getting to talk a little bit more about Flip, how it's impacted the learning process for your kids, and your thoughts on presentations in the classroom. Listeners, stay tuned in the coming weeks for more App Chats with other LCMS educators. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.